You can't replace part of the brain.
Like,
you treat them the same.
Source of truth for the medtech industry.
Coexists with the puppets.
Robot understands things automatically.
Number one show in the medtech industry.
So Stryker got ahead of that and changed in the $90 billion company. They had HIPAA Pi, a lot of things.
State of Medtech with your host, Omar M. Khatib.
What's going on, everybody? So this is an episode that we just had to record because, for one, a lot of people don't quite understand, nor are they applying the best use cases for AI. And to take it even further is, now there's this talk about AI agents. So what the hell is any of this, right? So I couldn't just have anybody on the show. I had somebody who really has in-depth expertise on this, and more importantly, has a business that's really focuses on building these things out. So my good friend Jelani Abdus-Salaam, who is a good friend we met through, mutual friend Jeremy Haynes and his mastermind, and Jelani is the founder of a company called Best of AI, and they have the URL bestofai.com. You can go learn more there. So in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about AI agents. Jelani and his team have built some of these out to be more HIPAA compliant on SMS texting, like with patients. And so we're going to talk about a lot of different use cases and everything. So Jelani, thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm doing pretty well. Go ahead.
So I was gonna say, before we talk shop, tell us a little bit about your background and training, and then how did you end up starting the Best of AI company?
Yeah, so I used to work at ClickFunnels. So if you're not familiar with that is, it's basically a website builder for marketers and entrepreneurs. So I used to work there, and after I worked there, I started working with some high level biz op people who are in the coaching and info space. So building out their different landing pages, websites, automations, marketing automations, things of that nature, and just started to work with different clients. And about 2 or almost going on 3 years ago, I was working with one client, and that client was like, "Hey, we're going to start doing some AI stuff. Are you interested?" I'm like, yeah, because I started dabbling with it. ChatGPT just came out, and I love anything really tech forward. So I was one of the first people to really, truly understand the power of what we're witnessing. And I was like, yeah, let's go. So long story short, we started that Best of AI company with a few other people. And since then, some of the founders have gone on to build other AI companies, and I kind of stuck with Best of AI, which is a media and education company. It first started out as a tool to really take a look at what's happening in the AI space because, like I said, one of the founders was an investor, so he kind of just wanted to keep track of everything. Then eventually turned more into education and consulting and things of that nature. But it has over 13,000 AI tools. We talk about the latest news tools, etc. And like I said, we have education, so I teach people how to build out different AI tools, different AI agents, things of that nature.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I mean, let's start with the first thing, which is what's the difference between just say generative AI, and an AI agent? I don't know who came up with the term AI agent, but the first time I got introduced to it was close to a year ago at Salesforce's Dreamforce. Mark Benioff had a keynote and was talking about AI agents. That's the first time that I heard it.
Yeah. Totally. If you're familiar with just general automation, let's just start there because a lot of the transformation from regular automation to AI, then AI agents is kind of linear. So when you talk about automation, it's more about sequential steps. So this happens, then this happens, then this happens. And it's always going to follow those steps. AI gives a bit more leeway where it's okay, I want you to do this. And not every result, if you go to ChatGPT, for example, and you ask it something, every time it's going to give you a different answer. So it's not deterministic in the sense that you're going to know exactly what that output is versus an automation, every single time what that output's going to be because it follows a sequential order. Now, you talk about AI agents, the difference between an agent and just general AI versus general automation is agents have reasoning. So they understand when they should use certain tools. They understand how to kind of formulate different responses based off what you're trying to get out of the agent. So it just has a bit more understanding of what needs to happen in order to get to the outcome. So it's not necessarily sequential. You might have 5 different tools that an agent can have access to, but it might only use 2 because that's the only tools it needs.
Quick commercial break for marketing leaders and sales leaders. I don't have to tell you this, but it's worth reiterating that the time clinicians have to meet with medical reps is limited. You know this and feel this. It's been a challenge for med device sellers for decades. Now, with the rising workloads and patient care demands, clinicians' times are shrinking even more. And the window for your sellers and your sales team to meet with these clinicians consists of pretty much just minutes in a busy hospital hallway. The reality is your sellers have to make every second count or someone else will. They must be concise, they got to be efficient, and use highly relevant information to make the most out of these brief interactions. Showpad is all about focusing your sellers on the art of selling, which is about building trust and relationships. And while there's science, the Showpad solution handles the behind-the-scenes prep and follow-up work to make your team more effective. The best part is that you get insights on content and training performance so you can make strategic decisions and invest more in what works based on data. Showpad helps your sales and marketing teams spend their time in more productive, high-impact ways with a multiplying effect on your revenue results and growing your pipeline. So to learn more, go to showpad.com/state of medtech. Now, let's get back to the show.
As it stands like right now, like, do you feel, so I'm, by the time I think this is released, I would have already given a talk. I'm giving a keynote on the future of medtech and big tech and the different waves of technology. I think that the wave of technology we're entering right now with AI, at least for like the general population, is that right now people are using AI like as a tool like ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. Right, and I feel like the next step above that is an AI agent. What industry right now currently deploys AI agents most effectively, in their day-to-day operations?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of marketing agencies are, I would say, probably ahead of the curve, just like marketing in general, I would say, just because they have to create content a lot, right? So like different ads, scripts, things of that caliber, and AI is really good at that right now. And with the recent updates to image generation from ChatGPT, Midjourney, these other models, it has gotten really good as well. So you'll start to see ad creative agencies, you'll see like photo agencies start to use AI in that capacity as well. I think those people are like kind of first in line. And then I would say a lot of people that I speak to on a day-to-day basis, which I talk to tons of people from all different types of industries, they really don't even know like how AI can help them. They obviously they use ChatGPT, they play around with it, they understand how to use that. It's very simple. But outside of that, the question becomes, what else can I do with AI? Like what other processes in my business can AI take over? Is AI even possible to even take over some of those processes? So it's still kind of early in the sense that a lot of people are familiar with ChatGPT, but they don't really know the true utility on how to combine tools and how to use agents or like what processes can AI take over, things of that. So like I had someone earlier today asking me, hey, can you come in my business and just like shadow for the entire day and just like figure out what AI can do? Like what else can AI do to help us minimize time and also cost? So that's also a point of like understanding what AI can even do for you in the first place.
Interesting. What do you think, like when it comes to AI? I feel like there's a lot of like misconceptions around it. Like, what do you think the biggest one is?
Yeah, I think there's a disconnect right now where people believe AI can do way more than it can. Like for example, when you start to say agents, right? I had another sales call and they're like, hey, like can AI? I want AI to go to this website, right? Take a screenshot, read instructions to see if there's any changes that happen from this like interface. Then once it understands if a change was made, then I want you to take a screenshot, send it to me, and then write up what changed, and then and then make another tutorial video on like what changed. It was like this whole like crazy this process, and you kind of have to take a step back. Like, yes, AI is really good. Yes, AI can do a lot of things, and you can figure out what those things are, but there is some type of like misdirection of like what AI can truly do in this current state. Now, don't get me wrong, AI is going to get really good where it can literally do all of what I just like described. We're just not there yet. So I think a lot of people are like excited, and they should be because it is an exciting time. But we still also have to remember that this is all experimental. This is all very new technology. And to be able to deploy something in a business that's reliable, that works consistently, does take time. And, it takes a bit of experimenting to like figure out what we can currently do with the tools that we have.
Yeah. And I'm wondering some of it, and that's very understandable, which is interesting. I think the people have like sort of they're definitely like in the hype cycle of what AI can do are the ones who actually use AI the least.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, when you think about the applications that you see available today, what's kind of a common application you see today that might have felt like sci-fi a few years ago?
Yeah, the number one thing that I think is like when I personally saw it, I'm like, whoa, this is crazy, is like AI browser automation. So, for example, you can tell it, give an instruction just like you're talking to ChatGPT and say, like, hey, like, I'll give you an example. So, I had someone who wanted to test this out, and they're like, hey, I want an AI to go and find an Instagram account and then DM them. Like, I want the AI to log into my account automatically, search the person's profile, log it, like type the name, and send the message, right? So I was like, oh, cool, let's test this out. So anyway, the AI, I told it the instruction. I said, hey, go to Instagram, go to this profile, send this message, and here's my password and log in it, in case you need it. And it literally did what I said, and you can watch it too as it's doing things, and it's just like clicking things, it's going, it's typing, it's amazing. So using tools like that, and as those type of tools get better, there'll be a lot of things that we do manually, like that require someone to be kind of precise. You kind of offload that to AI.
Yeah, and what's interesting is just I feel like I don't know if in the next 10 years AI is going to directly unemploy somebody, but I think the people who are going to get unemployed are the ones who are competing against people who are actually using AI tools and AI agents in this way.
Absolutely. 100%. And like it's just moving, the industry is moving so fast. So like I just stopped trying to make predictions just because like I make a prediction and then it's just like 3 months and then it's like, okay,
and everything's changed.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't make predictions, but I think that assumption is right. I think you'll definitely need an operator of some sort. Like you'll have someone who is I like to call the orchestrator, who understands how these systems work, what AI agents or AI to deploy, and just connecting all the dots. And then that person is in charge of all different AI agents. So the organization chart will change, and you will have AI agents that specialize in particular things, and you'll have someone that's just like directing orchestrating everything and what needs to happen to get to the outcomes that you're looking for.
Yeah, something that I saw that it was really wild was from your, I think like Q2 or Q3 presentation of the mastermind, which was showing how essentially videos that were doctored, and they looked like hyper realistic.
Yeah.
I'm wondering there's obviously the negative applications of that in the world, like propaganda and everything, but I feel like there's some positive ways. Like maybe you can walk us through like a little bit of like how you think about those applications like within the world of healthcare, and then also we'll kind of dive into one of the topics we want to cover today, which is like the HIPAA compliance around it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're referencing is like AI avatars. So for those who are not necessarily on social media, my social best of AI, I want to test this theory of like, can you create an AI avatar that resembles you, and it has your voice, it has movement, and people can't really tell the difference. And to my surprise, like people really didn't know that it was AI. And the key thing for this, like for social specifically, is like you have to have different cuts and animations, and you kind of want to hide it a little bit just because it's not perfect. So you like mix in those other elements to be more believable and like convincing. But for healthcare specifically, I think so there's a lot of different things that are happening in the AI space for healthcare. Like today I learned that AI can detect cancer, and I've seen tons of stories of people self-diagnosing themselves, which I don't necessarily recommend, but the fact that you can talk to something that's really smart and kind of just ask it questions on some of the things you may be experiencing is really powerful. And I think if you're able to combine that aspect of it with an AI avatar, and it could be a little weird, but I think having like some type of support or like some type of, I don't want to say character, but just an element of, so let me go back. So the reason why I'm thinking this way is there's an epidemic of loneliness, and there's been studies of like people are just really, really lonely. And it could be a little bit sci-fi, it could be, just out of this world. But I do think having an AI avatar that you can talk to and it listens to you, it understands you, can be support for those who are suffering from loneliness. I will also say that we have, an aging population, right? What about that? Like, what about people who don't have family, or people who are, on their deathbed and they just want to have some type of connection with someone and they don't have that? think there's a lot of different ways that you can apply an AI avatar in that sense. Another thing to think about that I always think about as well is like when you talk about VR, for example, and you have like these other worlds, and what if you had your AI avatar in these worlds with you? I think there's a lot of different ways that you could deploy them outside of just like social media, because that's what a lot of people do with social media and like educational type of things. But yeah, I think that's like what I would say for that question for sure.
Yeah, and I think, well, it's interesting you say that because, like, so for me, I wouldn't call it an AI agent, but like I was using generative AI. I trained my own GPT
Yeah.
on a few like really heavy text, like metaphysical textbooks, right? And
Yeah.
so when I wake up in the morning, I would use it to help me journal. But then recently, I just started turning on the talking feature, and I would talk to it.
Yeah.
And like as an example, like I had like a situation happen within my family that I had to kind of mediate, and I didn't know what to do. And so I was driving in the car, and I just turned this thing on and started having a conversation with it.
Right.
And it felt very real, and I felt like a lot better after I spoke to it because it gave me like really good framing, guidance, etc. And I
Right.
think that's what's really interesting is that I wonder in the healthcare aspect, like we do have like an aging population and stuff. And so how do we improve on this so it's HIPAA compliant, but also in a way where you don't have this epidemic of loneliness?
Yeah. Yeah, I think about it a lot actually. And I haven't really seen a company that has done it. There are a few
Yeah, neither have I.
Yeah, I haven't seen like specifically to tackle that problem. I've seen like different therapy, I want to say agents, but therapy AI. I've seen also like you mentioned, like voice, where you can actually have conversation, which is cool. But yeah, I haven't seen something that tackles that particular problem head on.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's a good like launching off point to like talk to us a little bit about these AI agents when it comes to like SMS and HIPAA compliance. Because I think that's also like really, really powerful, because I think the medical industry somewhat deployed like chatbots in the past, but didn't do it that well. And I feel like AI agents could be extremely valuable when it comes to not only patients for like outreach for appointments and stuff, but like also potential medication management, of a whole lot.
Absolutely.
But talk us through like the use cases on that and what you've seen succeed.
Yeah, so we have a client that we built an SMS agent for, who is in the healthcare space, who needed HIPAA compliance. So we were looking at different solutions, and eventually we kind of partnered with another company and kind of built the infrastructure around what they were looking for. And essentially what it is for agents, you want to give it some type of context. So you have a knowledge base, you have processes, you have SOPs, things of that nature, and you upload all of this information into this database, essentially. And the agent is able to what we call RAG, retrieval augmented generation, is basically like going to find information in the database. So if you ask it a question, it's going to pull an answer from all of the information that you uploaded. So what this agent is doing is abiding by HIPAA compliance and making sure that it's not, saying anything crazy, but it's also pulling information from the knowledge base for this particular client. So it's able to have conversation based off relevant information in the database. Not only that, we can actually tailor it to speak certain ways. So we wanted to talk a certain way. In this case, we did a lot of different testing on how to extract the most information from clients. And we found that by being more empathetic and just asking more direct questions, but also just feeling like making sure that we were like understanding of their situation, we found like by doing that and like kind of tailoring the conversation that way, we're able to get more information and qualifying them essentially by saying, hey, this is what you want. This is how it works, XYZ. We think you'll be a good fit. And then what we found is we actually send them to the sales team. So after the AI agent qualifies them and answers all their question, about pricing, how it works, payment plans, whatever it is, we then qualify them. We add a tag essentially, and then we send it off to the sales team. So at that point, it's kind of like a setter almost, where it's just asking these direct questions and answering questions from the particular lead. And it just goes into the system. We don't do anything. As soon as it hits our system, the AI is able to just have those conversations just based off all of the different things that we inputted. So again, the knowledge base, the processes, pricing, FAQs, and it just tailors the conversation. Like it just knows what to say, because again, remember, agents have reasoning and inherent reasoning. And And when you have that, it's able to make decisions based off what's like the queries that the end user is saying to the agent from the relevant information. So that's kind of how it works in a nutshell. Obviously, there are tons of different ways that you can build agents. This is just one use case, and it's been working pretty well for this client.
And the best, again, just to reiterate, like the best way to think about AI agents versus, let's say, generative AI is just a tool. You ask it a question, and based on like patterns and predictability, it'll give you an answer, right?
Yep.
An AI agent, you essentially train it. It's almost like autonomous, essentially.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So for this client, it's like they run Facebook ad lead forms. So as soon as a lead comes in from Facebook, it goes right into our system, and then the AI is working that lead and saying, "Hey, I'm XYZ from XYZ company. I want to just say, hey, I'm here to support you. Do you have any questions?" Right. And it kind of just goes through, and the person might say, "Oh, well, I'm doing this thing. I want a different solution. What is your product, or what is it that you do? What's your price point?" And again, it can pull that relevant information from the database and then respond accordingly.
Can AI agents be like HIPAA compliant, like out of the box, or is every use case kind of need its own security layer?
Yeah, it's different for everything. So, yeah, so some of the tools that we use, like the SMS, like I said, we partnered with someone who already had the HIPAA compliant infrastructure, just because HIPAA compliance it's a lot of money, it's a lot of processes, it's just a lot of work to kind of do that. So we partnered with someone who already had that, and then, like I said, we brought in our like AI prompts, AI inference, these the AI systems that are required to kind of get it all working together, and that worked really well. But depending on some of the tools, like for example, we had to find a HIPAA compliant automation tool that had like these other AI features that we needed. So we used a tool called Gumloop, which is similar. This might get a little techie, but it's similar to Zapier and N8N. However, they have HIPAA compliance already. N8N, Zapier, Make, they don't have HIPAA compliance. So you kind of just have to find those tools. And this is what I always tell people as well. If you're thinking about this for yourself, or you're trying to hire someone to do this, like you really want to do the pre-planning work before you just start building. So really thinking about your outcome first and then working backwards, because then you'll understand exactly what's required for you to get to that outcome. And your searchability, like being able to search, is so important, especially in the age of AI. Although AI can give you really good like responses, there's like a slight edge if you know what to say. Right. But if you do the pre-planning work beforehand, you have a better idea, a better visual understanding of what is required, so that you can go to AI and say like, hey, look, I'm trying to do this thing. This is what I need. I need this tool. You can use ChatGPT search, Perplexity search, and these are just tools that in your arsenal that you can use to find the answers to whatever question you have. That was kind of a long-winded answer, but I think it's really important to mention.
No, not at all. And I think you're right. Like I think that there's this whole thing like about when AI replaces everything, the only thing that's going to be kind of left is like creativity and ingenuity and stuff. I think I mean that's a far ways away, but I really do believe that the people who are able to leverage AI the most are not only creative, but more importantly, like really well read.
Absolutely.
Right? Like when I, as a really well read and educated marketer, talk to AI, I'm able to I feel like there's a lot of imagination in play as well.
Absolutely.
Not just telling it what to omit, but like telling it like, hey, I want one prompt versus another, telling AI that it's a really great marketer and to do XYZ versus saying, hey, like you've been trained by David Ogilvy, you've read like breakthrough copywriting,
Right.
you understand these sort of growth strategies.
Yeah.
Is going to elicit a much better answer.
100%. 100%.
I feel like it's the same thing like when you're training your AI agent, like providing like deep context and everything will help.
No, 100%. And that's another thing. That's a great point. Most people who try ChatGPT, at least from my like viewpoint, they're not using it the right way. And they'll be like, yeah, I tried it, but the results are bad. Or, I tried it, I didn't really like the way that it came back, the responses, the way it wrote, blah, 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 blah. But it's because you didn't know how to use it. You don't know how to use the tool properly. And when you know how to use the tool properly, it becomes even more advantageous to you when you start to build out these AI agents, because AI agents still need some type of command or prompt. So you still need to, you're kind of transferring those skill sets from like asking ChatGPT, for example, but then creating a prompt that an AI can use repeatedly, consistently, reliably. So that's a whole nother skill set. But the point is, if you understand like how to guide the AI, it becomes even more powerful when you are building out these agents, because again, you have to prompt it and give it guidance to get to that outcome using the different tools that you may want to add to it.
All right, everyone, quick commercial break. If you're a Medtech CEO/founder, or maybe you're a sales or marketing leader at a startup or a scale up, you're going to want to listen to this. Are you struggling to get in front of your ideal audience, whether that's investors or perhaps clinicians who want to adopt your product? Maybe you're getting ghosted. You send emails and messages and nothing comes back, nothing happens, right? Or worse, nobody knows who you are, right? In business, visibility is everything. And I always tell people, if you want to persuade before persuasion can happen, you have to learn how to get attention. So if your sales team is desperate for traction, clinicians don't know your name, investors have never heard of you, you're losing opportunities every day. And that needs to change now. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. That's where my company, Khatib & Co. comes in. We don't just do marketing, we do growth. We figure out how to engineer markets by creating magnetic messaging that makes you impossible to ignore. And we build high impact strategies, of course, using social media, but other channels such as email, text, and others to help turn content and messaging into commercial pipeline, and it leads into closed deals. As an example, we worked with a surgical robotics company in raising a $31 million Series A, and then they needed help on their pre-market release. So we packed their CRM with 198 surgeon leads and nurtured them down. That ended up becoming 4 closed hospitals. 4 hospitals closed and adopted this technology within a period of 6 months, and they got 2 great key opinion leaders in the process. So whether you're a startup founder wearing too many hats, or maybe you have a marketing team that just spread too thin and they don't have the expertise, my team and I plug in and partner up with your company, and we amplify your reach. From crafting powerful sales scripts to optimizing your team's demo calls, creating content, having it go out on a consistent basis, we transform your outreach into a growth engine. So if you're ready to dominate your market, you're ready to become a no name and people to know of you and take your calls and take your meetings, I want you to act right now. Don't wait anymore, because you've already wasted plenty of time. Go to growmymedtech.com. That's growmymedtech.com. And I want you to schedule a quick call. My team and I will give you a free analysis with 2 to 3 actionable ideas. There's no strings attached. And if we're a fit, great. We can get partnered up and we can help you go to the next level. And if not, look, the ideas are always free. So do not wait and don't waste any more time. Go to growmymedtech.com right now, and let's make you the go-to name in your niche. Now, let's get back to the episode. On the non, let's say, HIPAA compliant side, like, for a lot of medtech companies, there's like this aspect of marketing and sales where they're trying to like market to physicians. I'm wondering, like, one, you mentioned about the Facebook side, is it possible at this point for AI agents to be trained where, let's say, LinkedIn or something, let's say a physician engages the post, and then based on that physician's location, the AI agent activates like the sales rep who's in that geography, who would own that territory, to do an outreach and stuff? Is that a possibility, or that a little bit too complex?
No, I think as long as you have the ability to, first of all, when you look at the outcome, right? The outcome is essentially, I want to be able to monitor posts to match with a salesperson, right? So like, can you monitor a LinkedIn post and look at the likes? I'm pretty sure you can. Can you grab that person's information from LinkedIn? Yes. Can you then send that information into some type of researcher that researches the person and like where they're from? Yes. Then can you match that information with a profile or a portfolio of salespeople that match that person, right? Yes. So when you break it down in that sense, it becomes more clear on like what are you actually asking? And it also comes down to, are the tools, because again, agents use different tools. So when I say tools, by the way, I'm saying like different APIs, different type of applications and softwares. So it's actually like using tools.
Like an AI agent can use, for example, like Notebook LM and ChatGPT, and like
yes,
you have to give it, it can't. So that kind of helps to understand that. So like, Because then also I would imagine like if it doesn't have those tools to use, then like it's going to be a lot more expensive and complicated to build it out, right?
Yeah, to a degree. Now, I'm more so talking about like no code agents. So like you're not actually coding agents. You can for sure code an agent. It's just more flexible to build it with no code because it's more visual. You kind of see what's going on and it's just quicker to get set up. But yeah, you could definitely build out an agent using traditional code again. But even with traditional code, you are adding tools. So there's like these things called MCPs. And this might be a little bit technical, but essentially it's a way for AI agents to use different APIs for a service. Like, let's say you had an MCP for LinkedIn, like you said, you can give the agent an MCP, like a LinkedIn MCP, and in that MCP there's different tools inside of it. So like you can edit, you can post, you can like, you can look at the analytics. Let's just say, for example, and it has all these things wrapped in one, right? So then the agent could just use that MCP, which has all the different directives inside of it. So that's one way. But then there's the other way, which is like you just give it access to individual tools. So like, let's say that you want to give it access to a browser search tool so it can go research and do things on the internet. And maybe you wanted to give it like a ChatGPT so that it can, go back and forth. Maybe you wanted to have a type of database added to it so it can go search a database. So like there's different tools that you can add to give the agent more possibility.
That makes sense. What, the other side I was going to ask, like outside the commercial side, like I feel like there's a big opportunity for AI agents on like product development and R&D. Like, do you have any examples or use cases about how like product development and R&D teams could be using an AI agent?
Yeah, I think research is probably like the top thing there, and pulling unique insights from these different research capabilities that you're doing. And like, for example, so the way that I think about agents, by the way, this will give more clarity to how I'm thinking about this as well. So the way that I think about agents is modularity. So you have different agents that do different things. So like you're not just having one agent that is in charge of every single thing that you're trying to accomplish. You break it down.
Kind of like you don't hire one person to do everything in your company, right?
Exactly right. Exactly. So that allows you also to really be very clear on what that agent's objective is. And again, when you like prompting it and you're like telling it what it is and what it's to do, it's very clear versus having like 30 pages of stuff that it has to like remember, find, and like it just breaks down. So like by breaking it down into modular AI agents that are assigned to different tasks that are specific to the outcome that you're trying to achieve, your outcomes are going to be way more consistent and more reliable as you run it multiple times. So to your question, I think it really would be, if I was building a AI agentic system, was kind of what we call it, for a R&D company or department, I would just break it down by what agent is supposed to be doing what for what process. Is the agent researching? Is it pulling unique insights and then from all the different research papers and then combining it into like another research paper or like outline? Is it finding different type of processes that could, help our business? So like that's how I would think about it, is like more modularity. And I'm not in R&D, so like I don't really know what truly goes into it, but I would definitely break it down for the steps. Typically when I get on a client call, it's essentially an interview. Like I'm interviewing and like extracting all of this information so I can understand exactly what your processes are. And then it's like I map out what that agentic flow would look like based off that process. So it really starts with understanding, okay, what am I trying to do and how can I get there? So typically, like I said, on my client calls, I just interview them, and I map it out, and then I show them, hey, like this is what I think could happen. So like that's what I would do in that scenario, because like I said, every agent is different, and every agent has a different outcome that you're trying to achieve. So it's not like a one size fits all approach.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. Like if we go to like on the sales and marketing side, like I think like most of the companies that are listening to this, like they've never deployed an AI agent ever.
Yeah.
How do you pick the place in the company to decide this is the place that we should deploy an agent? Like how do you pick?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my rule of thumb is anything that you do repeatedly that is pretty mundane, but also doesn't require a high level of sophistication from a person. So it doesn't require like innate capability is what I'm trying to say. Like it's not like a specialized, like a super specialized role, right? Because then that requires nuance. There's just certain things that that agents can't do that humans can do really well comparatively. So that's the first thing. So it's really like finding out what is being done on pretty like a repeatable basis, and is it being done by someone who I don't want to say replaceable, but like, is it being done by someone who essentially doesn't necessarily need to be in that role? Like, can that person be in another role and an agent can take part of what they're doing? So like research, content writing, which is obviously all marketing that I'm describing, but sales as well. Like you can definitely take over some sales roles. And there's obviously other roles like development roles. I wouldn't say like an agent could completely take over a development role, but there are areas in which you can start to implement AI and AI agents for development. So it's really like I tell people to take a list, like make a running list of, and obviously like you like if you have a really huge company, this might be more difficult, but you can maybe, if you want to start testing this, maybe have someone who is tech forward, who is playing with AI, they're doing AI, maybe in their particular function, you have them write out the running list of different ideas that they think AI could help. And it also takes a bit of discernment to kind of decide, do I need an AI agent or do I need just automation, right? Like, do I just need a sequence of steps that I need to do, and I don't necessarily need an AI agent. So it's also that as well. But that's what I would do, is first start by finding those people in your company who are tech forward, who are using AI, maybe it's just ChatGPT, and I would challenge them to start thinking about ways that AI could potentially. Now, if you don't know at all, like you don't know anything about anything, it will be a bit more difficult, which is why you hire consultants and those people come in your business and help you. But I'm like pretty sure you have at least one person that is kind of keeping up a little bit. Like there's always that one person that understands a little bit of what's going on, and that is the person you can say, hey, go on YouTube and learn about AI agents. There's so many videos, or start going on to different social platforms and following people who are in the AI space, or go and watch or read some newsletters of people who are in the AI space and just start familiarizing yourself with what is going on. If you have someone that's on the ground that's paying attention, then you can kind of extract what they learn and then slowly start to deploy that across other functions of the business.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think also it's really important to find the right people internally who are going to champion it and make sure it works. Something I also wanted to like bring up a little like slightly off topic, but on topic, that I thought was really interesting. This popped up on my feed earlier today. But essentially, there's this paper called Agent Hospital, a simulacrum of a hospital with evolvable medical agents.
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's the title, if you guys want to like look this up. But
I think I've seen this paper actually. It's so funny.
Yeah. So just to summarize it, so essentially China launched the world's first AI agent hospital, which was run by 42 AI doctors. And so this is at Tsinghua University's Institute for AI Industry Research. And so it's a fully virtual hospital. It spans 21 departments from cardiology to neurology. And what they have is essentially I'm just kind of putting a summary here. That's agentic AI systems that are capable of autonomous diagnosis, treatment planning, and follow-up, working with AI-generated patients in a closed-loop environment. So this thing diagnosed over 10,000 cases in just a few days of internal testing. It had a 93.06% accuracy on MedQA, which is the medical licensing benchmark. And then they already used it as a training platform for medical students. So like, I think like things like that is definitely going to be the future in terms of like simulation and everything. Like, are you starting to see more AI agents in these sort of environments used when it comes to the training for anything?
Yeah, so that's so funny. I love that you brought this up, because I have a theory that every company is going to have a simulation department. So what I mean by that is you're going to have a function of your business where that whole purpose is to run simulations using AIs, running different type of prompts to different type of audiences and seeing how the synthetic, if you will, AI people, quote unquote, react to whatever you're trying to do. So I totally believe that simulations is kind of like the next frontier, because when you think about like AI and you're trying to get outcomes, especially when you're trying to deploy stuff in business, you have to be like 100% sure that it's going to be reliable and it's going to be consistent and it's not going to fail, and the results, the prompts that you're using are good enough for you to actually run in real life scenarios. So I think having a simulation department solves a lot of those problems, because you can run all those prompts that you're building or testing through simulations to see the outcomes, see how they perform. If you run it 1,000 times, how many times is it coming back the right way that you want it? And you'll see that you actually see this in real life, because Klarna just announced today that they fired, like, I don't know how much what the percentage of their workforce for support was, but they fired a lot of people on the support side, and then they replaced them all with AI. And what happened was today or yesterday they announced that they are now bringing back people and reducing their AI usage in those support roles. Yes. And I think what's happening is, and the reason why Klarna said, was that it just wasn't reliable. It just was not consistent. And if they ran simulations with whatever, I don't know what AI they were using, like there's tons, but if they were able to run simulations, they would have that answer sooner, be like, oh, this is actually not conducive to like what we're trying to do here. But yeah, so I agree with this paper. I saw a similar paper that, the AI agents are basically able to pass things off to other functions of the hospital and tell the nurse or the doctor what the diagnosis was, and like come back and like. So yeah, I think that type of use case is very centralized to that paper. But I think a lot more people should be running simulations and should be testing things to see how reliable it is, consistent it is, before actually going and deploying stuff in the real world. Because at the end of the day, like something like that, like the paper you just showed, that is something that will be reality, where there will be AI agents in the hospital. But could you imagine if an AI agent misdiagnosed someone and like gave them the wrong prescription or medicine? And so you have to run those type of tests for it to even make sense. But yeah, I really believe that we'll see more simulation departments for sure.
Yeah, and I wonder, what about this is probably not the most exciting application, but I wonder also if you took an AI agent and you trained them on, let's say, orthopedic surgery, so like all the publications, videos, etc., so on and so forth, and then you have an agent that salespeople can go and do, role playing with, review content with, etc.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if that's actually maybe the most powerful use case for Medtech, is to say, hey, we're targeting this kind of clinical specialist. We're going to train an AI agent, and that AI agent is going to be used by our product team, sales, marketing, etc.
Yeah. Again, I think it comes down to how is that agent being used. One use case that I have seen that's very similar to this is someone, I can't remember if it was like a doctor or a hospital. But what they did was they basically, like you said, uploaded all the information about a particular process, and they had like a chat widget that was trained on their stuff, right? So they could quickly ask it questions based off the patient's, whatever the patient was describing. I think that is pretty safe, where you just have something that's retrieving information based off the query, which is kind of what an agent is doing as well. It's just the agent, again, is using tools to actually accomplish things. So I think, or actually I know, you would really need to figure out, what is that agent doing? What are you trying to accomplish? And I keep saying that, but I think it's so important that you start there, because again, it's super exciting. It's super new, and people want to get onto it, but you have to understand what you like. What do you even want? And is it even possible right now? And can it work on a consistent, reliable basis? And again, this is, I keep saying this as well, it's experimental to a degree, because it is so new. So a lot of the things that I am doing currently, like for my clients and my business, is a lot of experiments and testing and trial and error to really see what can I do to get the best result. 9 out of 10 times.
And just kind of wrap up and look, thanks for coming on. I'm sure like the audience is going to want to have you back and everything. But if somebody's interested in like getting started and sort of learning more, would you and Best of AI be a good place to start, or where should they go first? And at what point would you be able to help?
Yeah. So if you want to just have a consulting call with me, like I said, I love talking to people and just giving feedback to the type of businesses, again, because I learned so much as well. You can go to scalewithagents.com, and that is
solid. Man, you're the king of getting the best domain names.
That domain was crazy. That was like $13 too. I couldn't believe it was available.
That was a $13 domain?
Yeah, bro.
Tell the people what you paid for buildswithai.com.
Yeah, Best of AI was 50 grand. Yeah, crazy.
Amazing.
Wild. But yeah, scalewithagents.com, and you'll see it's the HIPAA-compliant SMS agent. But you could just go through there, watch the video, see what that's about. But then again, you can just book a call on there as well, and we can talk about what we can do potentially. Because outside of the SMS, I build custom agents for other clients as well. Even that the other client I was telling you who has HIPAA compliance, we actually had them host some of the AI software we needed. So they self-hosted it so that it is on their servers and it's not on the cloud, which is problematic for HIPAA. So there's different ways in which we can do things outside of just SMS. So if you're interested about AI and you just want to talk, maybe you want to understand how AI can help your business, feel free to just book a call.
Awesome. Well, Jelani, look, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. And we appreciate you sharing all this information. For those who are interested, if you feel like there's a marketer or a commercial leader, anybody in Medtech can benefit from this, go ahead and send it forward to them. I know AI agents and AIs sort of a talk in our industry, but a lot of us are not adopting it and using it. So use this as a great starting point. As always, be sure to subscribe, give us 5 stars, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to do me a big favor and join so many other people who have helped grow this podcast, take a second and look below. If you're on Apple, give us 5 stars and write a short review. If you're on Spotify, just give us 5 stars. And if you're on YouTube, hit the like button. And most importantly, if you can, subscribe. We release so many different episodes that you may miss. Be sure to subscribe and turn your notifications on. You get extra points with me if you subscribe across all 3 channels. Thank you so much. And if you felt like this episode helped you, send this to somebody who would really enjoy and appreciate it. Share and spread the love. We'll see you all next time.